to live without the intrusion or judgment of another soul, the fantasy of being the last woman on earth. She couldn't say whether a falling tree in a forest made a noise, but no vibration that she made would strike another eardrum, so she'd taken to speaking to objects. "Not you again," she joked with the damp patch in the bathroom. "Nice and fresh," she complimented the eggs. "There you are," she bantered with the corkscrew, waving its arms in the air. In a film on TV, Marnie watched a solitary character give a long pep talk to her reflection. "Nobody does that," she told the TV. But solitary conversation was like playing yourself at Scrabble. It was hard to be surprised or challenged. Sometimes she didn't even bother with words, instead developing a vocabulary of small noises, their meaning ever shifting. The radio helped, her days marked by the schedules, though the news was increasingly an hourly jolt of pure anxiety or rage that left her scrambling for the switch. She played music, listening to playlists called things like Coffee Shop Essentials or Rainy Day Piano, but no one had yet compiled a playlist for those sluggish Sunday afternoons in her one-bedroom flat, listlessly foraging on social media, incontinently liking posts. Present, but as anonymous as someone clapping in a stadium crowd. Time is a sensation that alters depending on where you are. And the cursed hours between 3 and 5 on a February afternoon lasted forever, as did the same hours in the morning. Times when she had nothing to contemplate but the same circling anxieties and regrets. Time when she was forced to acknowledge the truth. I, Marnie Walsh, aged 38, of Herne Hill, London, am lonely. This was not seclusion or solitude or aloneness. This was the real thing. And the realization came with shame, because if popularity was the reward for being smart, cool, attractive, successful, then what did loneliness signify? She'd never been cool, but she wasn't clueless either. People had told her she was funny, and while she recognised that this could be a trap, she was never intentionally sarcastic or spiteful, and far more likely to mock herself than others. Perhaps that was the problem. Her ex-husband had certainly put it high on the list, but she was kind too, thoughtful, always generous with her means. She wasn't shy. If anything, she tried too hard, a people-pleaser, though no one ever seemed that pleased. There is who we want to be, she thought, and there's who we are. As we get older, the former gives way to the latter. And maybe this is who I am now. Someone better off by themselves. Not happier, but better off. Not an introvert, just an extrovert who'd lost the knack. But it was not romantic loneliness, or only occasionally. She had married and divorced in her late 20s. In that alone a prodigy, and this great central calamity of her life had gone some way to cauterizing those emotions, even if the scar still itched now and then. Since the divorce, there'd been no one, not really, though she thought about it sometimes, that it'd be nice to feel the warmth of another body in bed, or to get a text that was not an authentication code or scam. It would be nice to be desired, but let's not get carried away. The risks involved in romantic love, the potential for hurt and betrayal and indignity far outweighed the consolations. For the most part, she just missed other people, specifically and generally, and if the prospect of social contact sometimes felt daunting, exhausting, intimidating, then it was still preferable to this small and shrinking life inside her 54 square metres on the top floor. Sometimes, she thought, it's easier to remain lonely than present the lonely person to the world. But she knew that this too was a trap. That unless she did something, the state might become permanent, like a stain soaking into wood. It was no good. She would have to go outside.
Mighty forces beneath your feet. The trick is to change the way you think about time. It's no use thinking in minutes or hours or days or even generations. You've got to adjust the scale. Think in terms of millennia. Then everything you see here is temporary. The lakes, rivers, mountains, all in motion, the changes taking place over millions of years. This valley wasn't always here. It was created, gouged out by a